So anyway, problem-solving skills, stating how to state a problem, how to get to the root of the problem, considering choices and consequences. Live for today, right? I'm not thinking about tomorrow and what the consequences may be. I've got to do what I got to do, and I got to do it now, and I have no choice. Well, so we're questioning that in class. We're looking at that, examining that. And then cognitive restructuring, and that will be the focus of the rest of this class. Cognitive restructuring. We can learn in Thinking for a Change through cognitive restructuring to become these unbiased, impartial, and neutral observers of our thoughts, our feelings, and our attitudes and beliefs. Set it apart from ourselves. Take a look at our thoughts, feelings, attitudes, and beliefs. We learn to identify the thoughts and the thinking patterns that we have that lead us into trouble, that get us into the mess that we're in, and that will be likely to lead us to harm others. Then we can choose. Once we've examined that, there's this power in that to be able to choose new ways of thinking which are less likely to result in negative outcomes or consequences. Now, when you're working with a bunch of hardcore, tattooed up guys in your class, it gets pretty hairy. Our expectation is not that there's not going to be some negative consequences. We're looking for them it's less risky, thoughts that are less likely. We're not expecting them to turn into Mother Teresa. We're expecting maybe they get in this huge argument with their boss, but they don't cuss him out or punch their boss. You know what I'm saying? Enough maybe to preserve their job, so that if they can arrest that thinking, they can arrest their behavior, and they have less negative consequences or outcomes. Cognitive restructuring. So once they are able to set this aside and look at their thoughts, feelings, attitudes, and beliefs, it is so awesome and so cool to watch this happen. Because they are learning a skill that most of functional America could benefit from. Matter of fact, we teach a course, COG for POs, and all the probation officers have a 3 8-hour sessions of cognitive skills, and they're coming to learn, what are we teaching these offenders, what are my probationers learning, so I can more identify and relate to them. By the end of the first day, I love this COG. This is helping me be a better parent. This is helping me be a better probation officer. I need this stuff too. And actually, the higher level you function, the more valuable this stuff is, because you can get these concepts a little bit quicker. So you become liberated and empowered to focus on then different attitudes and beliefs. What I'm saying is it's a matter of emphasis. I have an underlying attitude and belief that if I ask a professional to do something and he says he will do it, I expect him to do it, right? Perfectly sound attitude and belief. Or it could be an attitude and belief is, if I don't properly communicate with someone, then how will they know what I really wanted them to do? Is that also an attitude and belief? How can I expect him to do what I want if I haven't communicated properly? That's also a belief. My first one, perfectly good. Second one, perfectly good. First one can lead to a lot more conflict if we focus on that. If we emphasize that, if that's where we hang our hat. Much more potential to conflict than, me taking responsibility, so to speak, and saying, no, I'm going to focus on another attitude and belief, which is, maybe it was my fault, maybe I could have done a better job of communicating, and we should be good communicators, right? I believe we should be good communicators. Different attitude and belief, less likely to lead to us losing, right? And then, the way we become this unbiased observer of our thinking is by using a tool called the thinking report. Now, Nick and I are going to do a role play for you. This time we're telling you it's happening. And what it involves, I'm going to play the probation officer. And I know that my probationer, Nick here, often breaks rules, and I need to set especially clear limits with him. He's 10 minutes late for an appointment, and I want to teach him the importance of responsibility, but Nick believes he has very legitimate reasons for being late. Morning. Morning. Late again.
Seriously gonna start already on me this morning? Really?
You started on yourself when you were 10 minutes late, dude.
You know, I've told you numerous times that I cannot make it here at 8 a.m. in the morning. I have to drop my kids off at school, I have to take the bus, and you don't seem to care. I can make it here at 8:30.
Somehow, I have kids, I have responsibilities, and I'm here at 6:30.
Do you ride the
So
bus?
I don't know.
Do
No,
you ride the bus?
no, but you got plenty of time, and there's earlier buses. There's
No,
things
there
to be
isn't.
done.
No, there isn't.
So I've heard a lot of words coming out of your mouth. I've heard a lot of things you said about
Well, let's get one thing straight here. There
about
aren't
this
early-
over and over.
earlier
But what I'm
buses.
hearing is just more of this. You not taking responsibility.
Jesus Christ, man.
You're the
All
one
you
on
do-
probation.
You are the biggest dick
Oh
on
yeah.
the PO.
So that's where we're going.
Yeah, I
That's-
am.
that-
Take me back to court. I cannot stand being in your office. I hate looking at your face. I hate being here. I hate being on probation. I'd rather sit in jail.
Feelings are kind of mutual right now, and we can arrange the whole jail thing.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And you want to know something? The judge isn't going to do anything to me. I've been compliant. I've been making all my UAs. I've been having clean UAs. I've been going to all my classes you tell me to. And you're going to sit here and take me back to court for
Yeah,
10 minutes?
you disrespecting the whole judicial system by saying our time isn't of value and you can come in whenever you want. Yes, that is violation of your probation. We will go back to court and we'll see who wins this little fight.
I will.
Yeah,
I
we'll
guarantee
see.
you I will.
Okay,
Trust me. What
fine.
do you have? You have no teeth.
Yeah, we'll see who wins.
You have no teeth in you. We'll see about it.
Nick and I have this secret mission we don't tell anybody about, is to stump each other in these things until we get the other one speechless. We didn't accomplish that today, but what do you think of this? Let's just debrief. What do you think of this whole interaction we're having in general? Just throw it out there. Cassie.
You already have a ton of tension as soon as he walks into the room for being late.
What's
So-
that?
You're already creating a bunch of tension as soon as he comes in
I agree. He's
Bye.
creating a bunch of tension because he's coming in late.
by him coming in late and bringing it up. And then he equally matches your tension by saying it's not his fault and blames you.
No, really? F you? Really? No, F you, right? We talked about that before.
I think some of it was you're expecting him to be able to do everything that you could, and that what you do when physically he can't, and you wouldn't even budge.
I see it more of it, he's defiant, and he just doesn't want to follow the rules, personally.
But is he always only 10 minutes late though?
What's that, only 10 minutes late? Oh, no,
That's okay.
it's definitely been worse.
He's been late numerous times.
Yeah, I said, it isn't again, right?
Yeah. But,
I'm sorry, I tried helping you out, but apparently you're screwed.
Thank you. It's kind of like set up for a failure. Because if it happened more than once, he just mentioned he's been late several times and you don't have any means of transportation, and bus doesn't start before 8. He's got to kick his kids to school. So there's
He plays the victim, and gives that little sob story, he's got you all on his side.
Everybody's on my side, right? Thank you.
Frequent problem with probation officers is that they set up the rules according to their wants and needs, and so if the person that
Very good.
has a job from 8 to 3, and so they decide, you have to come and report to me at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, right in the middle of your job, and so I can't hold a job. Tough, that's your problem. This is a frequent criticism of probation officers, is that they harm the probationer
From,
by their own arbitrary rules.
look, who's on probation? Who's committed the felony here? Who has harmed society? And who needs to learn especially clear limits? And who needs to learn the importance of responsibility? So who's kind of siding with Nick and who's kind of, so raise your hand, you're kind of on
Nick?
his side. And then who's on my side here?
Oh.
Oh, I think I still got it, dude.
Yeah.
Yes.
So why you guys that are on Wade's side? Why do you think?
I feel like from volunteering and stuff, like I noticed that when people come into Santana's office, I feel like they get mad at the probation officer thinking that she's working on their time. So it's like, just because she let them be late like once or twice, they get too comfortable and then they start thinking,
They get comfortable and think they can drag their
well,
sorry butt in there anytime.
yeah,
they
they
want.
start making up their own schedule, making up more excuses, and oh, well, you knew about it, and they get too comfortable, and then that leads to other problems.
What is the description, what is the job of a probation officer? Are you like a parent, are you trying to help him, or what is the job of a probation officer?
Good question.
What is the purpose? Are you
Let's-
trying to slow him
let's-
down, or are you trying to rehabilitate him, or are you trying to help him, or are you trying to just?
We're going to
What's the
create a,
purpose
what
of it?
do they call it, the basket or the, you know, where you put question, where you bank questions or whatever.
Oh, parking lot?
Parking lot. A lot of this is gonna be answered today, as we talk. So I don't wanna give the whole kit and caboodle here, but okay. What is our purpose? What is our role?
What's our job description?
Yeah, job description.
So let me ask you this, when you're with Lori, okay, and somebody comes in late, does Lori come at her clients the way Wade came at me?
If they've done it more than twice, yes.
She can get a little confrontation.
Yeah, she can.
Okay. Nick, you can get unhinged in some of these
Oh,
classes.
man, just, oh my gosh, just unhinged.
Right. So what's the question? Did you have your answer?
Yeah. How hard would it be if he's constantly 10 minutes late? Switch it by 20 minutes, and if he's still late after that, I'm doing the same.
I'm begging you to change me to 8:30. You're just
As
being
you mentioned.
ridiculous.
Especially clear limits.
I'm trying to make those clear limits for you, man.
If he's got a legitimate complaint saying there's no bus until 8 o'clock, and you want him there at 8 o'clock, I know a lot of guys don't have cars downtown.
Yeah.
I mean, would that be something you would take into consideration when you set up the time, or would you just arbitrarily do it?
I mean, a smushy PO that doesn't wanna, you know,
30 minutes.
if you're one of the hug a thug POs, maybe.
Let me ask you a question. What is the general caseload for one officer?
Whoa.
Depends.
Yeah, it highly depends on, there's so many, and this is another whole, there's all kinds of units within probation. You know, there's sex offender unit, and then there's intensive supervision sex offender probation, and then there's intensive supervision probation, and then there's standard adult probation, which is kind of the catch-all for most of your crimes, auto theft, breaking and entering, burglary, robbery, so forth. And those officers probably, let's just say it's crushing, okay? Crushing.
Well,
But 160 people on a standard adult caseload is not unheard of.
that's true. When I did DUIs when I first started out, I was upwards towards 500 people. When I went to juvenile, I was around 80 people. Domestic violence, I was holding up probably about 100. And then with ISP, well, they call it LSIP now because it's limit setters intensive probation. And right now, I'm not really high. I want to say downwards, like it's lower than
If your
30.
max is 2,
Yeah, and I have maxes too.
So I
I'm
have-
holding a caseload of like 50 people. It's not
50
bad.
people. So, and state guidelines and statute even drive some of the numbers that we're expected to keep, but also,
But when you get into those specialized units, you have different contact
so you're
standards.
seeing them a lot more, you're doing curfew checks, you're doing home visits more, the expectations on the officer are more, and they're trying to create more contact, so, does that answer it a little bit?
Yes, sir.
You're talking about a course here, or the cognitive restructuring and everything, but I haven't heard why does the probationer want to do this? Do you only take people that want to do it?
No, some people
or-
don't have a choice.
Oh,
The judge will order and say you need to do a
okay,
cognitive
because
skills
there's some
program.
that say, you're just messing with my mind, I don't wanna change. How do you, before you even get into all of the, you need to cognitively do these things, you have to convince them, I would believe, that they should want to change.
We are, and it is work, right? I mean, so a huge portion will not get past day 1, 2, or 3 of the course.
And there's, like, we're both certified T for C, and we're both MRT. Now, I teach the MRT classes at Probation, and there are some guys that will go there just because they're told they need to go there and they're court ordered to do it. Now, they'll come in there with a crappy attitude that they don't want to be there, but a lot of them end up liking it in the end because we're so confrontational in the group, and we are on them, we call them on all their BS, all of that stuff. It's surprising, you would be really surprised on how well these guys respond. And I say guys because predominantly it's mostly male. We do have a female group, but they really do appreciate it because it's just like, this is the first time somebody's ever called me on my crap.
They appreciate that. Once they get into thinking reports that we're going to be looking into more, it's startling to them. They never thought this way before, and it's exciting, and they feel hopeful. And our graduates are like, if I had just had this course when I was young, I wouldn't be in the system at all today, And so it's goosebump exciting, it really is, when you see the light bulbs go on and they start to get this kind of stuff.
Are there any studies or statistics that show how this affects recidivism, like your graduates?
I know Ellen has done it on our chief, she's done it on the female groups, and actually, I can't remember
It's high.
It's a high number with the female groups, that there is no recidivism, they're not back in the system, that they complete this group, that there's, I say it's like upwards in the 60s.
I would say that,
Don't need charges.
I mean, some of it is they're a functional, humble enough person, and they want to follow the rules enough to stay in the course for 25 weeks. And those who will stay in the course for 25 weeks are probably less likely to recidivate, not because of what's coming from the class, but what they bring to the table of being able to put that time and investment into it. So it does skew the numbers, but statistically these things are studied. I'm sure you can go onto the NIC, National Institute of Corrections website, and download a million statistics on all of this stuff, which isn't my specialty. Nick? Come on, Nick. No, it's not going to happen with him either. That's not where our strength is. I don't know where our strength is yet, actually, but maybe we. What? People skills? We do? So, just to throw it out there, you don't agree?
I would say it varies.
Varies what?
Your people skills varies.
Oh, because of this little, what?
That hurts my feelings.
So
We're not
let me
bringing
just
that
say that if my supervisor walked in and saw this interaction between me and my probationer, and he saw this happening repeatedly, I would probably be on the edge of being fired unless I started curbing it, okay? No. Absolutely not. POs are accommodating as best we can be. we're working with the bus schedules. POs bend over backwards to accommodate their probationers. It's almost to the point of being ridiculous at times. We're calling up people, we're literally holding their hand, we're filling out applications for them. We are calling the bus lines and getting the schedules, printing them up, showing them the route, getting them times, telling them when to go, if they need that. We don't want to do that, we don't want to hold their hand if they're more functional and they're lower level of risk. We let them do their thing, let them be functional, don't baby them. But we are there to do the hand holding until they can launch and spread their little wings and fly. Absolutely. What do? It is one part, law enforcement. And we'd say the soft side of law enforcement. We do not carry guns, we do not arrest people. We ask for a warrant for their arrest. And then the hard side of law enforcement, the sheriff's department is in the building. They come and arrest our clients in their probation meeting or in the lobby. One part mentor, one part coach, one part counselor, one part is whatever the day calls for. One part confrontational when it needs. Definitely parental. Okay, and I mean, and certain people, I'm old now, and my kids are 25 and 22, so I definitely take on a little more of a parental role. I can get away with it because of my age and the age of my kids. But you know, if you're more their age, the roles shift and changes, and that's why all those trainings we talked about in the beginning, because you're wearing so many hats and you're trying to learn to communicate across socioeconomic lines, across subcultures. And you're exposed to a huge melting pot within probation, and how do you reach them? How do you relate to them? How do you help them stay out of prison? Because the taxpayers are complaining. Sometimes that simple. Or maybe they need to go to prison. How do you work it? How do you work this case until that guy is in prison? I hate to say it.
It happens. And the thing is, there are times too where, like Wade says, you're bending over backwards. There are times when you will take away all the barriers that the person, every excuse that the person has, you will take away that just so you have a good argument in court. I've done X, Y, Z, they still don't want to do anything. There's no room for you to take me to hearing. It's a slam dunk case for me, you're going to the Department of Corrections.
So is that very, very rare? Yes, it's very, very rare. But we also work with often some very scary, violent people, and at some point, based on our assessments, on their, all based on the history and based on their level of risk. We maybe, I'm letting the cat out of the bag a little bit, but maybe secretly in a way know that this person, we're biding our time, they're unlikely to change based on how high a level of risk they are to reoffend, and we're taught, don't spend too much time throwing resources at this type of offender. And we're told that. Although we get to beat our head against the wall. But things are shifting, things are changing within probation, and we're being taught in our state trainings not to waste too much time on these maximum level. I've had people with 5 freaking felony convictions, and we can't get them to prison to save our lives. Judge, just keep putting them back out on probation. They keep committing crimes. They keep hurting people. They keep beating people up. They keep stealing from all. It's frustrating. Talking about not setting them up to fail, we are judges, and we are bending over backwards. And when we hear these stories of, and we just want to throw everybody in prison, it saddens us because we're actually killing ourselves to keep these people out of prison and work with them. And part of the problem is they're out killing someone else because they're not in prison. That's also sometimes a problem. Not always. That's rare, but it's sometimes a problem. Fair?
Fair.
Okay. So first part of thinking for a change, this thinking report, it's in 3 parts. Paying attention to our thinking when we do a thinking report, recognizing the risk in our thinking, or those things that are the highest risk, and using new thinking. Nick's gonna, well, I'll go through this real quick just to introduce it. So this kind of looks like your average thinking report. You've got a situation, it's what happened, your thoughts you were having before that situation happened. Very important to focus on what happened before, what led up to the problem. List your feelings, the ones that you had before it happened. Obviously something bad happening, right? List your attitudes and beliefs. What are the things driving what happened? All right? And so Nick will take you through the situation.
So, part one, the situation. One thing that we try to teach our people when they're in this class is to try to stay objective. So, what does staying objective mean to you guys?
Keeping an open mind.
What's that?
Keeping an open mind.
Open mind, okay. So, okay, I'm gonna keep an open mind here. Wade was being a dick. Is that objective? Yeah, you guys can say yes.
So that's your situation.
Huh?
Where would that fall in your thinking report? You've already come to a conclusion now.
Well, situation. Wade was being a dick because I showed up 10 minutes late. Is that objective?
Not really, because you're not looking at yourself at all. You're just looking at,
Yeah, I was. I said because I was 10 minutes late.
So where's the not so objective part of that statement? Wade is being a,
Yeah.
because Wade has a hard time saying that word.
Let's say it all together.
My dad used to hurt me.
Okay,
If I would say those words.
So, Wade was being a dick is it's not objective. We try to have them stick straight to the facts, okay? So what are the facts of the situation?
Late,
Okay, Nick was late.
10 minutes.
Nick was 10 minutes late to his appointment. There you go. That's your
That's it.
situation. It's a 1 to 2 sentence thing that you want to have, okay? You don't want some long, drawn-out explanation. You just want it 1 or 2 sentences. Keep it short, keep it sweet, and just remember just the facts. No opinion in here.
I mean, the facts are that, you know, my girlfriend was going crazy, and the police are coming by, and there's sirens going off, and everything in the world, and I just couldn't handle it anymore, and I was really mad, and then I did it. No.
It's something that all of us in this room can agree on. That I could put a sentence up here and say, Nick was 10 minutes late. Can we all agree on that? Okay. Wade was being a dick because I was 10 minutes late. Can we all agree on that? Some of us could, but
Yes, short, objective, facts, just the facts. Thoughts. Every thought you can remember, and this is where it is unfiltered and where we encourage them to say every thought that comes into their mind. Ryan, how you doing? I feel like we're neglecting you back there.
No, I'm good.
So every thought you can remember unfiltered. So that's where Wade is a dick. That's where that would go. That was hard. That's where Wade. Sorry, Dad. That's where we put those kinds of statements. All the thoughts I was having before we got into the argument, you know, is what goes there. Now, before we had this conflict, what were those thoughts? So list them unedited, unfiltered, and when you're asking a bunch of tattooed up, humongous, hardcore guys to be unfiltered, guess what? It's unfiltered. It gets pretty crazy. But we want them to start seeing, to be able to look at it, everything they're thinking. And that is a startling thing for them a lot of times to see that on paper and to realize that that's been their pattern of thinking for a really long time.
Which thoughts are we talking about? His or yours or both?
We're going to get into that here in a minute, and we are talking about both, okay, in this situation. What did I bring to the table? How do I see the situation? Because with our offenders, literally, we're dealing with conflict they're having with their POs. And because they bring these situations, it's a no-spin zone, as what's his name would say, O'Reilly. In other words, they bring in, we let them bring in and speak freely about conflicts just like this that they've had with their POs. And my PO as a dick is up there lots of times on these dicky reports that our probationers are doing. And we're helping them work through it. And we're helping them look at the PO side of things. And why is the PO acting that way? And so forth. So we're actually using these as their homework, their case studies. And then list your thoughts without judging them. So don't qualify them, don't try to make excuses for them. If you were thinking it, put it up there. Because maybe it was maybe that thought was what was leading to the problem.
Feelings. So you try to list all of the feelings that you remember having, okay? So this is before, correct?
Again,
Yes, before the situation. Okay. Now you want to stick with just one word answers. Okay. So I was feeling aggravated. I was feeling disrespected. I was feeling stressed. Those are all feelings. Okay. Our guys have a hard time.
Anger, mad, pissed.
They have a real hard time expressing their feelings, so we give them one of these sheets. And very, very basic, but it really helps them out. The guys really connect with this sheet, okay?
And they're desperate. When we get to that section in the thinking report, all the sheets come out. Where's the sheets?
Well, the thing is like, yeah, I mean, they pull the sheet out and they're like, okay, hold on, let me see what feeling I'm feeling. So, I mean, and they're able to point to it. It's very basic, very elementary, but they respond well to it.
But even as, go ahead.
Does anyone ever feel like upset that they're getting that, or like, do they feel kind of like, I'm not this dumb, like I know how I feel when getting those
Everyone
sheets?
is appreciative of getting it because they don't know. Seriously, I mean, it's amazing.
It's a classic, stereotypical, out of touch with your feelings type of person, you know.
Now our female clients who go through this, they may feel that way because our female clients, they're in touch with their feelings, but as men, we're all macho, right?
And it's
Yeah,
not,
we don't feel, come on.
right, and a lot, female offenders can have a hard time with it too. It's not completely a stereotypical thing. However, you can make a pretty fair stereotype that a lot of guys are just not in touch with their feelings, right? I mean, is that safe to say? I think it's safe to say. At least everyone I've ever worked with on probation before. So, and I'm looking at that group, and everyone I know as a friend, and everyone I've ever gone to church with, and you know. So in general, I think it's pretty safe. And of course that's a cultural issue. Some subcultures are more in tune with feelings than others. They're just taught that from their culture. So certainly it can vary. In our culture, and especially when we're talking about street culture, gang culture, all that kind of stuff, yeah, no. They don't think that I'm hurt. My boss hurt my feelings. You will never hear that come out of their mouth until the end of 25 weeks of COG skills. Then you may hear hurt, but it's still hard for them to say it and admit it. Jealous. They don't want to admit jealous. They just don't want to admit weakness in general. So to be jealous is kind of showing weakness. I ain't jealous of you. You know, no. Guilty. Guilt is something that they will get for a lot of times. Sometimes. With your DV offenders, guilt is not huge on the feelings list.
Would you agree with that one, Cassie?
Yeah, more often than not, there's no guilt. I didn't do it, doesn't matter.
Well, if she hadn't provoked me, if she hadn't got in my face.
You just made the sandwich.
Thank you. Listen first time.
Overwhelmed. That is not a feeling you hear out of your probationers very often. Overwhelmed. No. I can handle it. Just like the last time, you just relapsed a week ago. And then you were saying the same thing, that you can handle it a week ago. And nothing's changed in your life. Oh, but this time it's different. No, you you sound like you might be overwhelmed. No, God, I can handle this. You know what I'm saying? So that's, some of these are kind of hard to read, but from that distance, disbelieving, disapproving, determined, just expanding their vocabulary. And then attitudes and beliefs. We've been talking about that already quite a bit. That's these principles, rules, values that govern society and govern us as individuals, govern our behavior, motivate our behavior to do things a certain way, to conform to societal norms, etc. and so forth. General stereotypical opinions about a kind of person or a kind of situation. So what do you think about POs? What is your attitude, your deeply held opinion about POs? Well, POs just don't get it, right? I don't know if you guys all can see that. POs don't get it. If you're carrying that into the appointment, the Wade doesn't get it, then you're going to act like Nick was acting, right? Oh. There you go.
Absolutely, you don't get it.
If you let others tell you what to do, or if I let others tell me what to do, I'm weak. You're showing weakness. That's huge among a lot of our offenders. No. So even the whole idea of submitting to a PO and going to a probation appointment diminishes and pushes that button of I'm having to submit to authority. I'm having to. Already you're tearing at the fabric of who they are and their deepest held belief. It can be very demeaning to them, and because they're being told what to do. And if I let others tell me what to do, I'm weak. I don't want to be weak. Therefore, I have to go against what you're saying just because. Just because I will not be weak. So let's chart these out and show you what a thinking report looks like in real life. You guys are going to save the parking lot. So let's start with Nick's. Let's start with the situation from Nick's perspective, all right? We're going to guess at a lot of this, but how would you describe the situation? Class, we just talked about it
He was
before.
10 minutes late.
I was 10 minutes late, because Nick's writing his thinking report here. I was 10 minutes late. So that's the situation. Part one. Now, some thoughts Nick was having before he and I got into the conflict. A lot's on the line, right? Nick has, an F3 assault on your... And if I do take you back to court, and I do win that hearing, yeah, it could come with a sentencing range, what is 4 years the minimum, or is it more than 6 years? It's a lot. I don't remember all these sentences right now. We're bad at this. It comes with a lot of prison, potentially. And if it's aggravated because you were on probation or you have other felonies on top of it, you could go away for 24, 48 years. So it's pretty doggone important that now that you're on your 5th felony.
I didn't do any of that.
So
If I didn't have the public pretender, and I had the money to hire a good attorney, I wouldn't be in this situation. I wouldn't have to look at your smug face.
So the vehicular assault, serious bodily injury. No?
It wasn't me. I was in the driver's seat, and the driver got out, and I was the one that caught the charge.
And you took the fall for it.
Yeah, I'm no snitch.
The meth possession case.
Wasn't mine. I put on a pair of pants. My girlfriend must have put some. She's got a problem.
A
She's got a
baggie.
serious
Yeah,
problem.
no, I said I've done
A
that.
baggie. This stuff.
Yeah, that was her. That was her.
She was dealing with drugs.
Yeah, no, I'm not a tweaker.
The weapon possession by previous offender.
I had no idea. seriously, I had no idea once you're convicted of a felony, I'm just an avid hunter. I like to hunt.
They're like handguns.
Cutting your girlfriend's hair off, masturbating on her when she's tied up to the bed.
She wasn't putting that?
Explain that away.
First off, without giving too much, this is a little, she's into kinky stuff, man. She got pissed at me because I dumped her. I'm not into this kinky stuff.
It might be a good idea, sorry to throw that out there and apologize myself and everyone else. And Nick even.
Almost got me.
So, but yes, I had a probationer, that's what he did to his victim. Tied her up for 3 days. He got criminal trespassing, got on probation. Then he kind of progressed his way through, and then he ended up and tried to murder his next girlfriend. And finally he went away to prison for a very long time, and he'd had many felonies before that, but Daddy was a rich cat back east and went hiring the top lawyers in the country, and he kept getting off. Thank God he ran into Schwartz, one of our judges, and that was it. He went away for ages, 48 years or something like that. Thoughts. So it's very important that Nick looks at the thoughts that he's having before this conflict, because a lot is on the line. He could go away for a very long time. Innocent or not innocent, taking responsibility or not taking responsibility, he needs to do something about this issue, because a lot is on the line. Not just for him, but he's got these kids that he has to bring to the probation and drop out of school and blah, blah, blah. So what are some of his thoughts going into the...
Not his fault.
It's not my fault. What else?
He may have thought before he got into your door, I am really trying. My kid couldn't find his shoes. Hurry up, the traffic, all these other things that made, he thought he was really trying
I'm
to
really
get there on
trying
time.
here, and then I walk in here and all I get is 10 minutes late. Even when I'm trying to do the right thing, look at the PO. What else?
My PO is after me.
Oh, my PO is after me. Good. Trying to take him down. What else is he thinking?
PO's a dick.
Ding, 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 ding.
Part of the criminal justice field.
What's that?
You're part of the criminal justice field that put him away.
Oh, I'm part of the system. Or the man. Oh, thanks. So,
Can you zoom in on that?
I'm just part of the system. Or he's part of the system, or he's thinking that?
Yeah, he's thinking you're.
I'm part of the system. I'm
You're
just,
the problem. You're the cause of all this problem.
yeah. I'm the victim here. The system. Anything else?
It doesn't matter what I do, you won't accept it.
Yeah, hopelessness.
Yeah, no, save that. No, very good. No, I'm correcting you. I said, hang on to that. Don't forget.
What was the thought?
We want that.
Oh, no matter what I do, you won't accept it?
No matter what I do, this guy,
I'm 10 minutes early and you're 10 minutes late on that particular day.
yeah,
No matter what I do, it's not good enough for you.
yeah. I have high expectations on you, Pete. You're hardcore. No matter what I do. So that's kind of along the same line. Good. Anything else? Do you have any that you could come up with? Right here. POs are setting us up to fail. Right? We're just being, POs are, you're just setting us up to fail. Setting us up for failure. Get that every week. There's somebody. You're setting me up to fail. The judge is setting me up to fail. What's that?
You don't care about me.
Don't care about it. It's just a number. Feelings. What was yours? Hopelessness. No matter what I do, He's not gonna accept it. Just setting me up to fail. How do you feel? How does that make you feel? Every feeling is connected to a thought. It comes out of a thought.
Hate.
Hate. Really not that bad? You hate me?
Rushed, irritated.
Rushed, irritated, thank
Yeah.
Homicidal.
you. You would.
I know.
Anxious.
Anxious.
Is this gonna be the one time that I go back? Is this gonna be, like, is this gonna be the tipping point?
Is this straw that broke the camel's back? I feel anxious every time every time I go to my probation appointments. Denial. What? Why? Denial. It's not my fault. Oh, it's not that. I don't think he's gonna feel denial though. You know, but I understand you're feeling denial. You're feeling like he's denying. It's not my fault. What's the feeling associated with that? It's not my fault. What do you feel when you think that? One more nuance. Huh?
You're being picked on. You're the bully.
So feeling a one-word description. It's not my fault. Innocent. Justified.
Maybe what am I thinking about? But you want him to feel sorry for you because you can't do it.
I'm victimized. I feel victim. I'm a victim. I feel victimized.
Sympathy.
Sympathy. Oh, I want your sympathy. Or yeah. You're not feeling sympathetic.
Yeah, 'cause you
But-
don't know what it's like to be like me.
Revenge. I'm thinking about running you over with my car if I ever get you in front of me.
So let's talk about that for a minute. Now listen, we work with, the majority of the people we work with, like DUI offenders and things like that, they're just like you and I that did something stupid, okay? That's the majority of people who are on probation, they're minimum risk to reoffend, so I don't want to paint a picture of probation. We're just working with all these hardcore criminals. We're not. We're just working with people that made some bad decisions and have done some stupid things. And a lot of them regret it, have a lot of remorse, and they're not considered high risk to reoffend. We don't spend a lot of time on that. Matter of fact, statistics have shown you don't want to over-supervise a minimum risk person because they rebel against that. Why? Because they value freedom just like you and I do. It's one of their highest values. You, to be able to step out and go here and go there, you would never, in this room, most of you would never do anything to risk that. And you would figure out any way possible to prevent from being behind bars. They think just like you do, that they regret what they did. But a lot of people, everybody, a lot of times the people I've had on in intensive supervision probation, they say that this is the value. It ain't no value compared to like it is with us. Oh well, they go to jail, it's not a deterrent. Who cares? I mean, they care, they don't want to go. Also, you know, this is a dangerous situation for APO. I'm not likely to run my probationer down with a car after the probation appointment. I'm not likely to wait there until he gets out or before his probation appointment and run him over. Okay? But we have offenders on probation that they've been to the pen before, got out, finished parole, back on probation because they picked up a meth possession or something, and they do not want to go out. And when they direct their anger towards you, yeah, it can get a little scary. I've been scared of a couple of people. I watch on the way out. So yeah, it's very important that you do not get on their bad side. Just for sheer, not because of rapport. I mean, you want to build a rapport and you want to help them and do all that, but also you just don't want to make an enemy out of somebody that's kind of dangerous, right? You don't want that anger directed at you. You got to be smart.
How do you do that and make sure that at the same time you're not letting yourself vulnerable of being walked over?
What's that?
How do you do that at the same time without making yourself vulnerable of being walked over?
I would think, first of all, you accept some things about some of the people you're working with. They're going to lie. They're going to take advantage. They're going to manipulate. If that pushes your button, you might need to find a new profession, right? You might, if you're going unhinged every time somebody does something you don't like and lies to you, then this might not be the job, because you're gonna get a lot of that. So some of it's a personality type, of the type of person that can work with offenders. You cannot be reactionary that way. You gotta control your own attitudes and beliefs. We'll talk about that more. But not getting walked over, you get walked over. It's gonna happen at times. I'm not saying there's not ways to combat that too, but go ahead.
You confront it too.
You confront it.
I had one especially bad ISP case. The guy, he beat his victim with a combat boot. Like, you could see the indentations of the combat boot on his face. Took one of because he had a therapy dog, which was a Rottweiler, one of those chains leashes, took it, wrapped it around her neck, choked her, threw her through a door, stabbed her with a screwdriver, and beat the living crap out of her. He came into my office, first appointment, I was his third PO. Okay, first appointment, he said to me, he goes, you know something, I've been in Iraq, I was in special forces, I did this, I did that, I'm bigger than you. He goes, if I wanted to, I could, and he showed me his fist, he's like, I could put you through that wall if I wanted to. And I just looked straight at him and I go, what do you get out of this? Do you get the power out of this? And he immediately de-escalated. He was like, oh, I don't understand what you're saying. I mean, if you confront it head on, you have to be tactful with your words, but confront it.
You can try it. Again, you're wearing many hats. You'll by stealth, by head on, but you'll come at it from every angle, trying to address that criminogenic need, that antisocial thinking, that antisocial whatever. And he'll what's funny, not this guy. This guy just needs to go away forever. And hopefully he will, because he's just picked up a new felony and he's back in court. Another, what was it? Assault? Yeah, it's assault 1 resulting in serious bodily injury. Was it same victim or?
Nope. New victim. Crap out of his neighbor in the street.
Neighbor. So we are hoping he'll go away for a very, very long time. But I will tell you that some of these students come in here and, I mean, in our class, our probationers, and again, it's revolutionary. The biggest DICK in the class is crying and hugging you when you're done, because he's been able to see for the first time ever.
That brings up the question, you said you're his third PO. Now, how many times does the probation give these people several chances over and over and over again before you have to draw the line?
This was a unique situation. His first PO was a female, and she was she's a fairly petite PO. And he said, well, she was visiting him going over orders at CJC, and he stood up and he goes, you're the size of my victim. Do you think you could remember if I punched you this many times with this fist? She went to our supervisor, said, no, we're not supervising this case. Went to another PO who was, how do I
let's say that the bedside manner is pretty confrontational, okay? So they just, I mean, they were in each other's face. I mean, it was just like World War III. So Nick was that middle road, kind of, and so we didn't want the other PO, who we know and love dearly, to die. So we'll move him over to Nick and see what happens.
You did well.
So the caseloads are pretty much just spread out. There is no, hey, I mean, that just wouldn't make sense if a person's victim was a female to give the caseload to another female. It should have gone to a guy who can at least handle himself.
But there are a lot of female POs. Our office is predominantly female.
Oh.
So.
And some of the females work in our hardest core units too. I mean,
Domestic violence unit.
Yeah, and probably the domestic violence unit has more women working it because they have a passion for that. And we do look at that and want to balance that out, for sure. But there's no. And truly, it can be if they can learn to work with a female PO, that female is modeling stuff in a way that they may not have seen it modeled. She's demanding respect, and they're learning. They're learning every minute. So it can be very powerful to have a female PO in that position. However, and this is very rare, I don't want to scare any women away, but I mean, you know, the stalkings and the different threats that we've had have been primarily against women as well. You'd think it would be male on male with the macho thing, but no, it is a little more risk, but very minute. We haven't had any PO in our district be harmed, or there's been some stalkings and there's been some paintballs on their window and stuff, but nothing.
Slash tires.
Slash tires. Not too bad.
Is there a question over
No, I'm moving around a little.
So let's take 5.
there? What do you want to finish?
Well, let's finish number 4 and then we'll take a little bit. So attitudes and beliefs. What are some of his underlying attitudes and beliefs about the world, about probation, about the system? And we were talking about that before.
The system's out to get me.
System's out to get me.
Are you good?
When we stand up in a class and we talk about this, when we say POs don't get them in the set, it's so liberating for these guys that they can speak their mind and they can say what they feel and they can express their belief, and we're not throwing it back in their face. No. We're encouraging them to tell us what you think. Tell us what you believe. Let's talk about it. Let's examine it. Let's look at it.
Do these people get the idea I need to go out and get an advocate or a friend? Everybody's out to get me, but I know that the ACLU will be on my side.
Call my lawyer. See what you got to say about that. Trust me, we get that all the
It can
time.
be bad. It's not terrible. Most of them, they have their
supervisor's number.
Yeah, they have their peer group, they have their whatever, yeah, they'll call your supervisor. They will go over the top of your head in a
I'll call the
second.
chief. I'll call the governor.
Oh, for that matter, I'm gonna sue all of you,
Yeah.
all of you, all the way up, nobody.
State.
The judge,
State
I'm thinking of
Colorado.
the message.
Oh. Yes.
Yes, okay, sorry, inside, shouldn't share insider stories, that are inappropriate. We're sharing some, but they get inappropriate. Next is, what else? What underlying attitudes and beliefs is he carrying into the appointment?
They use the PO, you don't understand him and his needs.
What do you know, little frat boy? What do you know about life, about anything? My situation. What was it again?
You understand what he's going through.
But you don't understand.
You don't understand. You don't understand me. You don't understand my generation. You're what, like 100 years old? Fart. You don't understand. Was that more a thought or that attitude of belief?
Well, it could be POs don't understand, so that would be a little more general, right?
Yeah.
POs don't get it, or POs don't. How can you? They can't understand. POs can't understand. They weren't raised like me. They're not from the same neighborhood I was from. They didn't have a dad that beat the living hell out of them. They didn't have mom taking, you know. You didn't have to take the felony for your mother because she left her med pipe on your first felony, because mom left her med pipe on your window ledge.
The system is corrupt.
What's that? The system is corrupt. I mean, PO's just, for every person you send to prison, you get a bonus, right?
Yeah, you get $400 bonus.
Yeah, $400 bonus. You get that all the time. You make money off of me going to prison.
You get kickbacks.
You get kickbacks. Oh my gosh. We would be sending people to prison, but
Be retired by now.
no. Yeah, but they think this is common. This is a common belief. They get kickbacks.
If I'm working with you, you should work with me.
Oh, if I'm working with you, you should meet me. Yeah, meet me halfway. If I'm working with you, So it's more general. So to make it more general, this general attitude, I work with you, you work with me. It applies to many different situations. It's a general principle and value. It can be a specific attitude, you should work with me, but it's more these general belief systems about life. If I'm being reasonable, you should be reasonable. General principle of life, general value that applies to many different situations. I think we're good. Let's take that 5-minute break. Come back.
It's a little touchy-feely.
Okay.
Really?
And why?
Talking about emotions and all that.
Okay, it's touchy-feely because you're getting offenders to talk about feelings. Right?
Making them human.
What's that?
Making them human.
Making them human?
Yeah, like instead of always being so defensive, not willing to let any emotions out, you're forcing them to come out of the closet, right? Not to say what their real feelings are.
To be vulnerable,
Yeah.
to be, yes.
And then find out that they're not still being judged, that they can express these feelings.
We're letting them, we're not, yeah.
It's okay to show weakness, I mean.
Don't get me wrong, we see some of these things and we think, oh my God, this person needs to go away forever. I will tell you, there are some times you're going, you know, but in general, yes, it's a no, we're not judging, we're asking them not to even judge at this point their own thoughts, feelings, attitudes, and beliefs. That we want them ultimately to judge them and to make a decision about this stuff, and whether it's working, or whether it's right or wrong, or if there's something else they can emphasize. Yes, the judgment will need to be made, but in a thinking report, no judgment. Just get it out there, apart from me. Examine. Can you see this would be of value to you?
No.
Of value? Yes? No?
I grew up in an era when everybody was worried about mind control. Brainwashing was a big thing at that time. And so you're always leery, no matter what side you're on, is this brainwashing?
Okay.
You're trying to change me in the way I think, which is, yeah, you are. But is that good or not? Nobody really has a firm opinion about it, depending on your background. So
right. And again, when we're talking about without judgment, objective, we're not that people don't judge and have opinions about these people's thoughts and feelings. And your attitudes and beliefs might be perfectly sound, actually. Most of their attitudes and beliefs are pretty close to the same as yours about most things in life. Very little difference. It's where they hang their hat, where they put the emphasis, what pushes their buttons is different than what pushes your buttons. We could bring up controversial issues today, like abortion or whatever. We would all be having a screaming match here in a little bit, right? Push button issues. What is your push button issue? So it's what is their issue. So the deal is to get it out there and to examine it objectively, so you can decide whether you want to hang on to that and keep emphasizing it. And that'll be the next step of thinking reports here in a minute. But so now it's going to be your turn in the class to do the thinking report, and I think we can pretty much, keep our current seating arrangements, but maybe groups of 3 or 4. And so if somebody's short, find somebody that has more than you. And you're all going to come up with a situation. Let's find that right slide. Okay, here it is. Think of a time when you broke a rule or hurt someone, broke a law, whatever. Write a thinking report. Focus on the thinking that led you to break the rule or hurt somebody. So before you broke the rule, before you hurt somebody, before you broke the law, this situation can be a time when you violated the law or broke the rule, and so forth, physically or emotionally. So you're going to brainstorm together. You're going to tell the situations that you personally had. This is for real. We in our classes, no made-up scenarios. I mean, our role plays are made up, but the situations that they choose to do for their homework and to chart in front of the class are real life situations. And so that's what we're asking today. We're asking for some vulnerability. We're asking you not to choose speeding, you know. No, you want something juicier than that. Come on, you know. Unless you're about to lose your license because of your speeding, then you can use speed. But what's the situation? Time you broke a rule. Blah, blah. Disclaimer. This can be a vulnerable process. So you're going to all get together, you're going to throw out your ideas, and you're going to do a thinking report on one of the group members' situations. You're going to choose amongst yourselves whose situation to use. Whatever you deem is the one you want to use, you'll chart that. Thoughts, the situation, thoughts, feelings, attitudes, and beliefs that were driving your behavior before you did something bad and broke a rule. And then you'll have an opportunity, some of you may have an opportunity to come in front of the class and present your thinking report. This is just like what we would do if we were teaching a cognitive skills course. They'd come forward and present their thinking report. That's vulnerable. Please allow us as officers to maybe challenge you a little bit, like we might our probationers, if there's any challenge needed. And to look at the situation. We're gentle, we will be gentle, but if it's particularly a vulnerable situation for you and you feel like it's just too much for you to share in front of the group, then don't come forward. That's all. You don't have to give us your deepest, darkest secret. Matter of fact, you know, please don't. But keep that in mind as you're doing your thinking report. So kind of group together. This group needs an extra person over here, and there's only two there. We may have a.
How about you have
Hey, that's me.
That's what I was thinking.
Well, there are people.
One ounce. And then all of a sudden it's like.
Wow, we're getting aggressive here. Woo.
So, who's brave enough to throw themselves under the bus? Okay, and what is your situation?
We drove drunk.
Okay,
We as in
or
all of
I
us.
drove drunk. Okay, all right. So one of you is going to present it. So you'll be doing it in first person. I drove drunk. We'll do that. I think we had another one, another drunk driving, and we had another out. You guys are a bunch of alkies. Seriously, we're getting a drinking problem here. We have some serious issues.
It's the only way to get through college.
Okay, so here's the deal. What's your name, sir?
Sterling.
No, I'm sorry, Sterling. Yes, not you. Yes, no.
Alright, so I'm gonna walk over here now.
Sterling, come on up.
Okay.
What's your name, sir?
Not me.
Yes, you, Terry. Terry. So Terry and I were talking about brainwashing and how to get people to think differently. A different take on this, not brainwashing, but when we hold this principle is I am my own authority. If that is of value to me, it's of value to me, okay? If it is my attitude and belief, it is my attitude and belief. It's not the job of Nick and I to change your attitude and belief or to judge it as good or bad, right or wrong. You are your own authority. You will decide if that's a belief you want to hold on to. You will decide if that's working for you. You will decide if I'm willing to carry that attitude and belief all the way to prison or not. If you are, fine, go to prison, take responsibility. You're doing what you thought that you should do. You're your own authority. So there's freedom of choice in thinking for change, and that's a fundamental principle of thinking for a change. The judge will have an opinion. The judge will decide whether he agrees with your way of thinking and doing things, and you could go away for a very long time. But it's not our job to do that. We'll challenge it or say, hey, is this something you want to hang on to? Is there something better you can emphasize that would take the edge off? But again, they're their own authority. They choose to hang on to it. We'll be keeping our eye on them and see what happens. Because generally they'll take it all the way to prison. So, what do we got here?
Drove drunk.
Okay, who drove drunk?
I drove drunk.
I drove drunk. Personal responsibility, right?
Yep.
Very good. And your thoughts are?
I was fine. I can handle it. I only lived 10 minutes away. I can't pay a taxi or to have someone come give me a ride. Everyone I knew was asleep at the time or already passed out. And I was less drunk than the other person I was riding with.
Okay.
And I drive better drunk.
Who doesn't?
Very good, very good. So this all, that's the kind of thing that led him into trouble, right? That justified him getting into trouble, the trouble he was getting into. It's what he told himself to make himself feel better about what he was about to do, right? The thinking that led up to feelings.
At the time, I felt happy. I felt like I was bulletproof. I was a little bit tired. That's why I ended up leaving the party. That's why I wanted to go home.
Okay.
And I felt like, hey, I'm lucky, so nothing's going to happen to me. I hasn't happened in the past, so why worry?
Good. I like tired. Here's one thing we didn't bring up about feelings before. Feelings are not only the one-word descriptions of an emotion, but also, you know, those physical things, like you feel hyper or stressed, or you feel those clenched fists, that sweaty palm, that raised eyebrow, that scowl on your face. So we're trying to get them to identify these things, these feelings that have risk. When I'm tired, is being tired a risk for you to do something harmful around your house?
No.
No? You're fine?
I mean, 100%.
Yeah. So some of us get a little cranky when we're tired. You know? So what I'm saying is, that's a risk emotion for me would be tired. When I feel tired, I know I have to be careful. I can't surround myself with 100 million questions and a whole bunch of chaos, right? Because it might lead me to bark at people. Yeah, see? So we're trying to get them to see these things. Good. And then, and this is just more.
There's more feelings?
Or these are more feelings?
This is like after the fact.
You're adding
Oh,
to
the after the fact. Okay, so we're looking at before the fact. Why do we look at before the fact instead of after the fact?
So you figure out what led you to make that decision.
Right. Exactly. Very simple. You know, we're all Monday morning quarterbacks. We can all look back and make a judgment. Even they can do a fairly good job. Well, that was bad. That was terrible. It had terrible consequences. I feel guilty. It'll never happen again. Blah, 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 blah. But they never go back to examine the thinking that led them into trouble in the first place. That's what cognitive skills is all about. Cognitive behavioral therapy, theory, that's what it's all about. Just looking at those things that led up to. So I don't see attitudes and beliefs on here.
So what would an
Maybe.
attitude or belief be?
Something that was underpinning all that, the fact that you do.
That it's justified, everyone does it.
Okay, everyone does it. Good. Any other ones? That whole legal limit thing? Right?
That's just the federal government keeping us down.
Yeah. Yeah. So again, the man, it's just, the man is trying to control us. They just want the money for the DUIs, blowing this, $10,000, right? That's what it's all about. It's just, they're carrying these attitudes and beliefs. All right, very good. Let's have another one, and then we'll keep having fun here. And we'll go a little deeper here in a minute. So what else do we have? So we've done kind of the alcohol thing. These guys, you know, they said drinking underage. I got drunk under the age of 21 was what we reduced it down to. And I said, okay, so whose thinking report is it? All of ours. They say. So what else do we have?
So has anyone stabbed somebody with a fork in here?
Does anybody
I
stab you?
think somebody.
I think somebody might have stabbed somebody before. Come on up, Alma. Come on in.
I was
We want the
five.
full story.
Oh, okay,
I
fine.
was 5.
Pictures if you can.
It's still a good illustration. Now, when you're 40 and you're stabbing people with forks, they put you on probation or worse. Okay. All right. When I was 5, okay.
Mitigating circumstance.
That's not an opinion.
Do you put it like a 1 or 2 from
It's a
that?
fact. So, I stabbed my sister with a fork. These, we don't generally like these pre-informational things, only because it's it kind of looks like it's justifying a behavior. I did it because I was 5, for God's sake. So when I was only 5 would be more of a, only 5 would be more of a thought down here. No, the situations you stabbed your sister with a fork. That's it. No excuses, not because you were 5. You don't get a free pass because you're 5. You still get to stand in the corner, you know, even though you're 5. Okay, so tell us some of your thoughts.
She's unfair. Why do I have to do it? Can I just ride my bike? I'm too young to do this. She was taking advantage of her being older.
Ooh. And your feelings before you stabbed her were what?
Scared, angry, justified, vulnerable, confused.
Why were you scared before you stabbed her?
Because she was beating me.
Oh, okay, she was hitting you. She shouldn't hit me, blah, blah, so that could be in here too, right? And that could be an underlying belief too. So what are some of your underlying attitudes and beliefs?
She always gets what she wants. She's a bully. Parents always take her side.
Parents always take the older sibling side, right? Or
And older sisters have more power.
good attitudes, great. Great, thank you, report. So what are some other situations that he had? Stole a GI figurine. You disgusting. What else?
We're like this group right here.
What's this right here? Uh-oh, yeah. What is it? Okay. Ooh,
Table full of
come on.
turners.
Are you ready to be vulnerable? Okay. Tell me your situation.
I beat my husband up.
Okay, objective, facts, just the facts, or not, opinion.
That's okay.
Is it an opinion? No, don't give me an opinion on whether she beat him up. Give me an opinion on whether this is objective. I beat my husband up. Facts, just the facts?
Well, maybe in his.
Would her husband agree on it?
No.
Yes.
Probably not.
Is it something everyone can agree on?
Yes.
Well, not her husband.
Not her husband.
Well, I
Her
guess
husband may not agree.
So she assaulted her.
In,
I hit my
in
husband.
her family, you know, she thinks it's beating up. In his family, that's child's play.
I slapped my husband. I hit my husband.
I slapped my husband, I hit my husband, I gave my husband a
Black eye.
humongous black and blue.
I put my husband in the hospital.
I put my husband in the hospital with, okay.
It's
So,
like, I don't know if I want to touch this.
You have to avoid self-defense there. It's not bad if it's self-defense.
oh, no fair, no jumping ahead.
Okay.
That's okay, you're good. Give me a hard time. So, but the facts have nothing to do with whether it was self-defense, right? The facts are, she beat her husband up and put him in the hospital. Or she slapped him, hit him, strangled him, whatever it was, put him in the hospital, correct? All right, so what are some of your thoughts?
I hate him. He was being a dick when he should have just done the dishes.
Good.
Well,
Okay. Good. No, just throwing it out. Good job. All right, and your feelings?
angry, frustrated, upset, disappointed, and disrespected.
Okay, these were the things going in before you hit him up pretty long. And your underlying attitudes and beliefs about life that drove this whole thing.
You just have one job. You made me do it, and if you want something done right, you should just do it yourself.
Okay, so is this a real situation? Okay, I thought we were being had. You're fine. All right. Good though. It's a very good example of a thinking report, and a very good example of something that we would see. Let's go to, so here's the truth here, right? We stole a GI action figure. Why did we stole a GI action figure? We've all done stuff a lot worse than stealing a GI action figure, right? But this is safe in this environment. But but you've done stuff that you could put up here. You just weren't willing to come up in front of the class. I'm not asking you to do it. I'm not asking you to come up here and share more than that. But you could see how this could be a good exercise to use something very real. And when our guys get there and you just come out of jail, guess what? It's time to start getting honest. Drop the pretenses. I beat my husband up. Absolutely.
I mean, you could really imagine how effective this would be with a sex offender.
Yes.
To recognize, to have some acceptance and recognition. That's pretty powerful.
A lot of the cathartic stuff happens before we even move on. We're just in the first part of thinking reports, examining your thinking. And a lot of the impact happens right here. 3/4 of the work is just done. Because they own it then. And when you see your situation here in all its coldness, and we've stripped away all the, I was 5, that's why I did it, when we strip away all the excuses and the opinions, and you're seeing it in its rawness, yeah. You see yourself in your humanity, in your ugliness, and yeah.
And your lack of control.
Your lack of self-control. And you start empathizing with your victim. And you realize how much changing you need to do so that you can stay out of jail and quit harming people. Because you really don't want to harm people anyway, a lot of times. Some of them do. Or they just could care less still. And they hold on to that, they'll hold on to that until they go to prison, and when they get out of prison, they'll won't go and they'll keep harming people. That happens. But generally people, we're talking about human beings. They're not sociopaths. If they're sociopaths, they need to go away. Goodbye. Please go away for life before you continue to hurt people. But generally, they're human. We're dealing with human beings around probation. So, next part, very quickly. What would you say is the riskiest thought that she had here? Thought that most led her to beat up her husband. I hate him. He was being a dick, and he should have done the dishes better.
I hate it.
Okay, so for you, and again, I am my own authority. He should have done the dishes better. Perfectly legit. If that for you is what sends you over the edge, supper was not on the effing table when I got home. Supper should have been on the table. And when I start thinking that way, I'll beat her up. Well, you expect that when you get home, right?
Hey,
Supper on the
what do you
table.
tell a husband with 2 black eyes?
Nothing.
Nothing, already told
once.
once.
So, the feeling that we're identifying risk here, and we do this with our probationers in these thinking reports. What is the thing that most contributed to me doing what I did, that drove it? The thought that was the riskiest thought that led me into trouble. We're trying to identify that. And it might be more than one, it might be a couple. Next. Angry, frustrated, upset, disappointed, disrespected. What do you think? For you, what would be the one? What would be the feeling that most led you to do something? Disrespect. Why disrespect?
Because you have to retaliate.
If you're disrespected, you have to retaliate. So again, underlying attitude and belief, right? If someone disrespects me, you have to retaliate. Why? Because if I let them do this to me, I'm weak, right? Underlying attitude and belief. This is probably the #1 thing that our probationers that are in the class will circle. Disrespect. It's their, it's that street value, that respect. What do you think with respect? You don't respect me? What? Where we have to, as POs, we get disrespected all the time. If we went crazy because people disrespected us, we would be out of a job, So yeah, we have more of a tolerance for disrespect than they might. He had one. Okay, so he had one job. What is?
You only had one thing to do.
What were y'all thinking?
We were talking about the dishes.
Oh, he had,
Yeah.
somebody only has one job to do, make the copies. Can't even, one job.
Back there again?
Yeah, if necessary, we'll.
Can you turn the camera on?
So we found out that our skit was so unbelievable to the camera person that the camera got turned off partway through the skit because it was so uncomfortable to have on film, and we thought, we don't want these poor guys to get fired if their bosses see that film. Okay, so
That's awesome.
he just had one job. He made me do it. No, I had no choice. Right? And if you want something done correctly, do it yourself. Okay, so which is the underlying attitude and belief that most contributed
He
to
made me do it.
He made me do it.
He made me do it.
He forced my hand.
so
Same thinking.
she made me do it. Is that an attitude and belief that carries over into many different situations? What would be more
Yes.
broad than that? Sometimes you have no choice, right? Sometimes you have no choice. Sometimes
You had to correct it now.
Sometimes it
You
just
couldn't
has
let
to
it
be
drift.
dealt with, and it has to be corrected. So, there's only one way to teach a lesson sometimes. There's only one way they're going to learn. Lots of different ones, kind of along that same line of he made me do it. So then we ask you to look at this and think of a thought. Spin this thought or a replacement thought. I hate him, maybe it's a I hate him but. I hate him but. Because I hate him. With that thought comes an emotion. Anger, resentment, frustration, hurt, disappointment. I hate him but. I hate him but what?
I still love it.
I hate him, but I still love him.
He's the father of my child.
I hate him, but he's the father of my child.
He pays the bills.
Very good. Very, very good. I hate him, but he pays the effing bills. See, that's not Mother Teresa, right? Still allowed to be selfish. But I hate him, but he pays the bills. Is that less risky than just I hate him? And when you say, I hate him, but he pays the bills, what's the feeling?
Dependent.
What's the new feeling? What?
Dependent.
Huh?
Dependent.
Dependent?
Helplessness.
What else? Very good. I hate him, but he pays the bills. Is there a new feeling other than just pure hate?
Helplessness.
Helplessness, maybe. Okay, I'd like to beat him, but I can't. Okay.
He's good for something.
He's good for something. So if I say he's good for something, how does that make you feel? He's good for something, and that makes me feel
Less angry?
content, maybe a little more. Tolerant.
Tolerant.
Tolerant. I hate him, but he pays the bills. He's good for something, and that makes me feel not disrespected. It does disrespect, but it's still, it makes me feel more tolerant. And tolerant is a less risky thought than disrespected or hate, right? Do we need, and he made me do it, yeah, that thing just needs to change. There's no salvaging that attitude and belief. Yeah, sometimes you just have to confront him. That's all there is. But he had one job. Can that be tweaked? Can that be modified?
What about the one on the bottom?
Or the one on the bottom?
I want something
If
done
you want
correct.
something done correctly, do it yourself. Is this perfectly good attitude and belief? I mean, it's, right? But what could be modified about that? Huh?
Divorce.
Divorce? Well, there's always divorce. It's actually, could be a good thought to have, to take the edge off. In other words, you feel trapped, right? there's always divorce, you know that there is always freedom possible. You're not stuck. And stuck is a very dangerous feeling. So you want a new feeling. I'm not stuck. I could leave if I want to. Is a powerful deterrent to beating him up, putting him in the hospital. So we could go on for a long time on these thinking reports and how this whole thing works. But you've been taught the core of cognitive self-change and how this process works. So let me go ahead and go. All right. Did we meet our objectives?
I just had one question.
Yes.
Wayne, do you see, like, when you were doing your skit and you had a probationer that had a number of offenses that you were challenging him about, and you did thinking reports on him in regards to a couple of different scenarios, do you see common themes? Like you see hate again and again and again and again in a probationer, and you're trying to get him to recognize that he's using that again and again.
Right.
I could just imagine that happens with you a lot.
Streams of negative thoughts.
Yeah, just commonalities.
Patterns of thinking and behavior. And so a lot of, hey, you know, yeah, just after a few classes it's hilarious because it's the same person with exactly the same thought, thinking of the same problem, the same feeling, and we're like, this has got you in trouble before, hasn't it? This is a pattern for you, right? So you need to identify that that's a high-risk thought, belief, feeling for you. This is a pattern for you. Then it's like you're without excuse. You know what I'm saying? I mean, they'll still do it and act on it, but there's an awareness now, and there's a power in awareness. The truth shall set you free, right? There's some power in that awareness. So then it's no longer, it blindsided me, I had no choice, I had no other way, blah, blah, blah. No. If you couldn't see that coming, duh. That same thinking has led you into trouble over and over and over again. Absolutely. Good. Anything else?
In the news, that keeps reoccurring, was the prisoner, the guy, the parolee that killed the chief correction officer in Colorado, and a Texas cop finally confronted him, shot him and so forth, and they keep bringing up, but he trimmed off his ankle bracelet a week before, and the PO did nothing about it. How do you deal with that?
Very carefully, because there's a lot of money at stake. People get sued, big time. We try to avoid putting people on GPS monitoring because it puts a huge burden on us to have to monitor that. This is our attitudes and beliefs coming out about it, but good God, really? We're going to be on hook for the guy getting murdered? Why did the damn judge approve to put him on GPS in the first place when you know he could go over there and murder the dang prison guard anytime he wanted, and that's on us? Sorry, we have some attitudes and beliefs, right? About it.
Well, that's very similar to JC Dugard.
Right.
And they really, the media, a lot of them came down really hard on the parole officer. And again, you really have to recognize the press on a parole officer when he has 150, 200 people on a caseload.
Now,
That they're trying to represent the public and ensure public safety, but there are limits.
I'm not speaking specifically to this situation either. I want to say that. So disclaimer is, this PO is probably not doing his job, okay? I don't know. I'm not making a judgment on that. I'm just saying in generalities about GPS and the expectation. We get scared of that kind of stuff because it's like, really? That's going to be, if that's the expectation, then we're doomed. But that's just our fears coming out. The officer was probably out of line. So just so, you know, I'm not speaking out of turn.
Well, I think it's unfair to put the burden on you guys because there's a different contractor that's supposed to actually monitor that and notify the POs when, like, the bracelet's cut off, hasn't moved for so long. But in that case, it didn't.
Yeah.
Like, there was a huge delay, like, of over a week before they even notified the PO that, oh, hey, by the way, he cut his bracelet off.
So again, I don't want to go too far down this road, but again, that's touching on then our attitudes and beliefs about the system and resources and where technology is at, and judges put people on probation. Probation officers can't prevent Johnny from going down to the store and knocking off, the 7-Eleven with a weapon. Can't do it. If a judge says he was willing to take a chance and put him on probation, there's only so much a probation officer can do. Rule number 1 of War by Hawkeye, or MASH, way before your time. Rule number 1 of War, young men die. Rule number 2, doctors can't do anything to change. Rule number 1, young men are going to die. Young men commit crimes. Judges put them on probation. Young men are going to continue to commit crimes. Probation officers can't do anything to change number 1. Young men are still going to commit crimes, even when you stand on your head, do cartwheels, get all your training, blah, blah, blah. Does that prevent us from trying? Can we help? Can we stem the tide? Absolutely. You can be an agent of change. You can make a difference in recidivism in our state. What else did you learn and what will you take away?
That's a lot easier as a parole officer to put people back in jail.
What?
It's easier for a parole officer to revoke a parole than it is for you guys to get a judge to put someone back in jail.
Yeah, it depends. Depends on how strong your case is.
Yeah, and it depends on, it depends. The circumstances, what the violation was, so forth. Takeaway.
I will say that it's really refreshing because it's such a negative topic, isn't it? And it's refreshing as a citizen to see the efforts that our state is going to try to get them going, to try to get them going in a good direction. I mean, this is a very intensive effort. When you just want to take notes and go on to the next interview, they're taking extraordinary steps to try to recognize something to get them going, and you got to appreciate that.
It is 1:31.
Okay, well, guys, thank you, guys.